Hello. In this blog, I'd like to talk about the influences for the Eyes project and how intuition has played an inherently strong role in the orchestrating of the overall concept. This was something I briefly touched upon in the previous vlog posts where I gave feedback to the actors, and I talked about how I hadn't really thought my way through the project due to lack of time. I'd just felt my way through it. I wasn't guessing, but I was using my instinct to just determine what was the right way to go in regards to what felt right, really. And I mean, that was a process I very much used on my theoretical dissertation as well. I mean, Eyes is technically my practical dissertation, and I also did a theoretical dissertation. And with that project, that dealt with quite progressive ideas as well, and rethinking the structures and the theories of the applications that had gone before, very much like I've tried to do with Eyes, and rethinking how to tell the narrative in the web series form. And but anyway, with the theoretical dissertation, I didn't really have time to think things through. I more just felt my way through it, because additionally as well, it was dealing with, again, progressive areas, and there's not many other people dealing with those areas, so a lot of the time I had to generate my own original thinking and then just use very disparate sources to back that thinking up. So I was flying blind a lot of times. A lot of the stuff in there is slightly out there. I was questioning it myself. You know, is this really relevant? Do I have a point here? But fortunately, yeah, I got the highest mark that's ever been awarded to a theoretical dissertation in the film department at my university. So I mean, clearly that worked, that process worked. I had a good feel for the whole thing, as I said in the dissertation. And again, with Eyes, it was because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my creative project. As I've said countless times before, I was given this vague idea for a web series Bible, a pilot episode. But that wasn't really my idea. Wasn't my idea. That was an idea given to me by a tutor, which I thought was an interesting idea. But I needed to make it personal to me, because ultimately that was his idea. So I needed to take that idea and make it more interesting for me, because the problem is, if you can't, I can't. The only way I can do things to a high level is if I can really connect with a project or whatever I'm working on. It has to really interest me, basically. And that was really my thinking with the whole concept proposal package. That it was a proposal. I'm not saying this is the way it should be, but with this project, in addition to it being a proposal for its own self-contained concept, I was using it as a proposal for what the web series medium could go on to become, in a sense, and it probably will. I mean, it looks like it's heading that way at the moment anyway, so I'm quite pleased for that. But again, not many people are doing it, or certainly thinking of it in the same way that I feel that I have with Eyes. So in that sense, it was just about being original, feeling what was the right way to, not necessarily the right way to go, but feeling what was a new way to go, a more interesting way to go. You know, working with the medium of the web series, a smaller medium, you know, and thinking of, well, the type of modes that medium would be seen through, you know. And again, that was really what I was in the series Bible, talking about the potential of transmedia, about how it could grow out beyond from just being a web series into other types of content, you know, especially catered for different types of devices and modes of experiencing the concept. So yeah, intuition was a strong theme of formulating the project, but I think also you've probably noticed, from if you've looked at the project, you'll notice that it's an inherent theme of the actual storyline itself. I mean, obviously we're dealing with telepathy, but again, it's that idea of knowing something but not being quite sure why you know it, but you know it's the case, so to speak. And I think that's more strongly in Leanne's quarter. When she starts the story, she doesn't know she's telepathic. She just gets these images, these, you know, feelings for intuition. So I think that's really another expression of it. But yeah, I think clearly it's a winning formula. I wouldn't say, I don't know for everyone, but for me personally, I think that is the key, as my theoretical and practical dissertations have both shown, that really the best thing for me is to just not just blindly feel my way through something. I think this is key, and this is why I know I wasn't guessing my way through it, because I do read a lot, I do watch a lot, I'm always looking for knowledge, so I'm always feeding my brain with stuff, you know, just random stuff sometimes, but clearly all that stuff in there has come together to guide my intuition, so to speak, and really that's now how I'll talk about how Eyes has been influenced by other projects and things from my own life, so to speak. And I think if the key to understanding Eyes is really, well, you need to look at it all. You need to look at the series Bible, the pilot episode, and really my own comments on the project. I mean, once you have all those three things together, you'll realise that the key to understanding the project is the title of the pilot episode, Search Me. That is really what you need to understand it. I mean, as soon as I thought that title, I thought that's spot on. That sums it up for me, because for me personally, it explains the project, because from my point of view, it's talking about search me, the author of this project, because I have poured myself into it. So you can decode the meanings by looking at me personally. But additionally also, it works well in the storyline of the pilot episode, you know, the whole thing about telepathy, you know, look in someone else's head, search me, you know, going back and forth. Also about the actual medium of the web series, of audio-visual content, you know. I quite like to think that at the end, when it says episode 1, search me, it's like the episode itself is telling you to search me, or the episode. It's telling you to look back through the episode and search the episode, because, as I said, the episode is, in my mind, it's an audio-visual Rubik's Cube. You know, it's up to the viewer to arrange it into the correct sequence, to decode the true meanings of it. So it's really about, quite paradoxically, I think, looking deeper into something, but also expanding out beyond what is the most apparent meaning and looking at the bigger picture. But again, that very much influences me. But again, with the influences for Eyes, for me personally, I think I've always been interested in films, narratives, audiovisual content. New technologies have always interested me. So I think it was only natural. Well, no, actually, the whole approach really was me looking at all this stuff that does interest me. So taking films, narratives, new types of technology, new ways of telling stories, taking all those things, and through the process of making it interesting for me, I was finding my own approach to working with it, and above and beyond that, ultimately reworking those approaches to what I consider to be not necessarily an original form, but certainly an original approach from my point of view. So really, my thing to understand Eyes is to just, as long as you're thinking progressively, thinking outside of the box, thinking deeper, you shouldn't have a problem understanding it. And that's really what I want to encourage. I mean, one of my tutors hit it right on the head a couple of months back. He said to me, the impression I get from you, Pete, is that you want to change people's perceptions, which is absolutely true. And I didn't fully appreciate that at the time when he said it, but now I can see that is the case. I'm about progressive thinking. I'm about expanding our knowledge, you know, attaining a greater understanding, and that's very much true of me. And I think that again, it goes. If you want to understand the narrative of the show, why I picked this particular subject, and I'm telling this story of two distant relatives in quite a troubled family. Again, I mean, look into my own life. I mean, those are, you know, things from my own life. I mean, the whole concept of telepathy has always fascinated me, because I've always been interested in psychology, neuroscience, ultimately understanding people and how they work, their cognitive processes and what drives them. So, I mean, that's why telepathy has always interested me, because I've always wondered, you know, what type of world would we live in if telepathy actually existed? I mean, how would we function from day to day? What kind of people or beings would we be like? And really, that was my thinking with eyes. It was like taking that concept and exploring what it would be like if it did exist, if indeed the whole web series did go on, so to speak. And again, that was the overall concept. I needed to bring it back down to earth and make it real, make it personal, something that a viewer could easily identify with. And that was the whole concept of distant relatives and a troubled family and a troubled relationship between those relatives. Because I mean, from my life, my family is very troubled, to say the least, and Lord knows I've had my own problems with my family. I tend to be quite distant from them. Not because I don't care, it's just I find that's just the way. I think that's the way I've been brought up. I was always kept quite distant from the larger family by my immediate family. So my approach has always been to be on the outside looking in at my family and ultimately trying to work out what is wrong with them, why there are so many problems, so to speak. And not repeating those same problems. And so again, I think there already you can start to see the whole approach to Boris and about him, distant himself from his family, and also I think while I don't always see eye to eye with my family, it does interest me, the whole family and their whole dynamic and their reasoning for doing things and where they've come from and the stories that are in my family, because it's a very big family and I know there are some very interesting stories in there. So again, for me it's about being the outside but getting to know that family. And again, obviously you can see that's where Leanne's coming from then, because she wants to know about this family. She's been an orphan her whole life, and in a sense I've always felt slightly like an orphan. I mean I have a sister, but there's a 10-year gap, so I've felt like an only child. So I have a sister, but I feel like an only child. So it's a very confusing relationship I have with my family. So that was really the flesh on the bone, so to speak, of the story. I thought, well, I can use that when I was panicking to think, well, what is the story? I thought, well, I'll just use that from my own life and rework it to work with this telepathic overall concept. And and I thought, well, if I do it with young people, I think anyone could identify with that. It's about finding your way through the world, finding out who you are, who are other people, how do you work with them, what roles do you play in this whole grand scheme of things, which is very much how I look at the world. I'm always trying to work it out, and if you want to understand the influence of eyes, that's it. I'm just trying to work this world out, that is it. And eyes, again, is another way of me doing that, of experimenting with stuff that interests me, to let me see the world in a different way. And crucially also, most importantly, I think, for me personally, what I've gained from this project, my practical dissertation, and also my theoretical dissertation, is they've been quite reflexive, and I've learnt a great deal about myself, and what are my capabilities, and where I should be going. And I can see now that really I am about changing people's perceptions. I should keep doing that, because clearly it's something I'm quite good at, or at least have I have the foundation to be very good at. So progressive thinking is really my thing, and that's what I'm targeting for now. And ultimately, by putting all this work into these projects, two projects that were done side by side and clearly have rubbed off on each other. Also, the documentary module that has rubbed off on they've all rubbed off, all three of them. So they kind of exist in each other, and I keep referring to eyes as the practical expression of what I was looking at in my theoretical dissertation. So I mean, it's been about 11 months now, from about October up until now. So it's been worth the investment, because ultimately now I know where I need to go next, what it is I need to do, the opportunities I need to create for myself, and convince other people to let me create those for myself, and how I can benefit other people from it. And again, just keep using my intuition, following what feels right, And that is really all I want to say on intuition and influences. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon.